Because reading is what?
Fundamental.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Do You Read BTS? I'm Lisa.
And I'm Delaze. Welcome back, guys. So last week we did our very first YouTube episode, and this week we're doing another podcast episode where we read Sex and Love by Vcutcuts on Wattpad.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very good, smutty story.
Mm-hmm. Just wrapped in sweat, girl.
Wrapped in it.
So in the beginning of the story, it is the girl, as you guys know, she don't have a name. So it's the girl, and she gets this like job. Well, I don't know if she's gotten the job or she's been working it for a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
But she got this job, and she is in a relationship with Taeyong. Which is so weird because her and Taeyong been together for over a year, honey, and she's still a virgin.
Right. I was so blown by that. I was like, wait, what?
Like, how you look at Taeyong every day and still be a virgin?
Girl! Listen to that man talk. I'd be like, let's go.
Yes. Girl,
Did you just say
did you
pizza
breathe?
sauce? Did you breathe?
He said pizza sauce. So she's in this relationship with Taeyong, and Taeyong drops her off at work every day.
Mm-hmm.
So he drops her off at work, and she works in this other department. What department was that?
She was in the monitoring department for the company. Yeah.
Okay, she was in a monitoring whatever. She was doing that. So she had a team of people that she worked with. Well, that particular day, the head boss of that department was out sick.
Mm-hmm.
And so her best friend is like, you gotta do it. You gotta do the presentation, because I guess they have a meeting every so often, and the boss usually kind of talks for their department, but he was not there that day, so they was like begging her, please go up there. You got to do the presentation, even though she didn't know what she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
She ended up doing presentation, and so she goes in. She never met her boss, which is JK, which is hard to believe. How you don't see him every day?
Right. In the same building. That made no sense.
Right, so she goes into this meeting. She's doing good with this meeting. She's a little nervous, but she's doing good. And then she misses something, and JK tells her, "Well, what about this? Why aren't you talking about this?" And she was like, "Oh, well, this was down, or something. Something happened. It was down. It was not working out. The inventory wasn't there, or something. I don't remember." But he was like, "Well, we need to go and look at that." So he basically told her, okay, we're going to have to see about this, because why is this off the report? And he basically was just kind of reading her about it. And so basically that was just like the end of the meeting. But the whole time, your boy JK had his eyes on her.
Couldn't take his eyes off her at all.
Couldn't take it. Well, the way they describe her in the book, honey, she was curvilicious. Okay.
Homegirl was stacked.
I was picturing her with the pencil skirt on and the big old titties and the nice shape. That's just how I envision her in my head.
Me too, girl. As soon as they said she was curvy, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. You
I know
just
what this
had
looks
that
like.
picture. Yeah. So they just going by their business, and she think, okay, I did a good job, whatever. And so the next day comes around, and he wants to show her something about that inventory. So he goes to show her about this inventory, and the lights go out.
Girl.
Well, when the lights go out, they end up on top of each other, I think.
Yeah, so somehow it like fell over. She was about to fall because he was like right behind her, and then he caught her or something, and then they fell. But then he was freaking out because he's afraid of the dark, and they huddled. It was
Right,
weird.
but was he really afraid of the dark? I mean, I
Probably
don't think
not.
he was really afraid of the dark because he is.
After all this mess that he played in this story, he wasn't afraid of no
Right.
dark.
He was not
He wasn't
afraid of
afraid
the
of nothing.
dark. He was just trying it.
Yeah.
So, he pretty much made her believe he was afraid of the dark. So she was kind of like holding on to him and like caressing him and helping him because he was acting scared. And so he started like rubbing up on her,
Mm-hmm.
like biting and kissing on her shoulder and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't stop him.
Mm-mm.
And she was
Nope.
thinking in her head, why did I let this? Why am I letting this happen? Why am I doing this? I don't know why I like it. But she liked it.
Mm-hmm.
As if y'all know what JK look like, who wouldn't like it? Okay.
Okay. And
And
he
we was,
seems so fine in this story.
girl, you know what I was thinking? Remember that picture I sent you with him on Jimmy Fallon in that black swan with that seat?
Oh
Girl,
yeah.
that's all I could think about. Okay.
Girl. Mm, mm,
Let me
mm,
get
mm.
myself together. So, so then the lights turn on because they were down there for a good 10-15 minutes.
Right?
The lights come on and she like kind of like jump up and like act like nothing ever happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she goes on about her business and she goes home that day. Tay pick her up. When Tay pick her up, that's when JK sees Tay.
Mm-hmm.
And so JK pick her up, Tay picks her up, but JK thinking in his head, oh, I'm gonna get her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if she got no boyfriend. She mine. And I
Mm-hmm.
want her. Period. So then she goes home and she goes with Tay and Tay just say her and Tay is so sweet together, but they are not coupley. They are more like best friends.
Best friends. Yeah, I agree.
So her and Tay do their little thing. Then Tay tell her that because like he's been working at this job and he really loves his job. And he tells her that he has to move for his job and he has to move to New York. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that puts her in her predicament because she's really good in her department. Like she don't want to leave her work.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically decide, that they want to have this like long-term relationship or whatever. And the weird thing about it is like she wants to have sex with him, but she never tells him.
Right. Like she didn't want to initiate it, which I thought was strange. But I'm like, I
Right.
get it. Like you don't always want to initiate it, but how he gonna know you want some if you've never had sex before and you don't tell this man that you want
Right,
some
because
dick? Like
obviously he was not a virgin, but she was.
right. I just thought it was weird that she chose for him to be leaving to have sex, even though he was going
Right,
to be
now
leaving,
you
and
want to
she
have
knew,
sex.
yeah, and she knew in the back of her head that that was probably going to be the last time she saw him, like in
Right,
that capacity. Like, really, that's when you okay,
right, and look, and then the sex was so freaking good too.
girl. I
It
was
was
like, you sure you're
so.
not gonna pack up in this man's bag and go with him to New York?
Mhm. Girl, that their sex was good for it to be the first time.
Girl.
But anyway, so she decides that she wants to have sex with Tay. They have sex, have a good time. He's leaving. It's really like a day or two later, but we're skipping over that.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
So he leaves, and when he leaves, she's like emotionally distraught about him leaving.
Mm-hmm.
She's a very emotional girl.
Yes.
And so she's distraught with him leaving. So she goes to her job and she's like going to her department to work. And then basically she ended up figuring out that she's no longer in that position anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So in the position she moves into is JK's secretary. Well, we already know what that's gonna end up like.
Mm-hmm.
And every story we meet when you the secretary, what happened?
Mm-hmm. Bow chicka bow wow.
Now, so
Yep.
And she ends up being a secretary. He's kind of mean to her the whole time, like how he talks to her. But he also is eyeing her and wants her
Right. And I feel like he tries her every chance he gets, like
every
just to see what he
chance.
could do.
Mm-hmm. Go
Girl.
ahead, D.
So she's working her job that day, like learning all the things that she's supposed to do as the secretary, which I was kind of confused because in my head when they were talking about she was in the monitoring department, like it just seemed like her going from that to secretary would be like a level down.
Yeah, like a downgrade.
Yeah, like low key like she was being demoted type of
Yeah.
thing. So I was kind of confused, but I was just like, all right, I'm thinking too much. But she works that job as a secretary. She learns what she needs to do, but he's like constantly trying her, and she's feeling these things for him instantly, even though she knows that she shouldn't, and she can't figure out as to why. And she's feeling it in her nether region. She's like, ooh, he said this like that, and I like how he said it or whatever. But she's still with Tay. So as this time is going on, he ends up inviting her out to dinner. So they go to dinner.
No,
Everything's like,
boy, he do not invite her. He tells her.
well, he tells her, yeah, his invite is very nice. He tells her she's going to dinner with him, and she's like, well, when they get to the restaurant, it's a really nice restaurant. And she's like, well, I'm not gonna eat anything because I can't afford nothing up in this thing, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm good. And he's like, I ain't say all that, girl. You're gonna eat. And she's like, well, I guess I'll treat you to like ramen or something another time or whatever. And he's like, bet. So they have this dinner, and then they leave. Did he kiss her at this point?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Cause they didn't even do anything until after the whole Tay thing.
Right. Oh, something that we forgot to mention. So there's a point where she's on the. I think this is the same day where she's on the phone with Tay,
Well,
and JK tells.
as time
Mhm.
goes by though, it's like a month, right?
Well, so there's a point where she's on the phone with Tay, and JK tells her that she needs to do something or whatever, and they're like having the conversation, but she never hangs up the phone. Do
Oh,
you remember that part? But they don't
yeah.
never really mention again. But then they kind of talk about it later on. But she never hung up the phone.
Yeah, that was like the first day he left.
Yeah.
So the first day he left, then he called her and was like, he had gotten there and he was straight. He basically was just like telling her that he was good. He made it there safe, and they were talking about how they was missing each other because they was like so linked up by then
Mhm.
that they both were going through something because they missed each other that bad
Right.
in that short amount of time.
Right. And so all that happened. So anyway, they go to dinner. They come back. And then that's kind of that. So the next day, she's kind of working in the office. Um, I can't remember what happened though. Like something, I don't remember if anything like really, really happened other than she was like still getting her job until later. I feel like I'm missing stuff.
No, I mean because you have to, but this basically as time goes by, he kind of try to get with her, and she actually tells him, "I have a boyfriend."
Right.
And so he was like, "I know."
Right.
She don't
And
even
don't
ask him
care.
how you know nothing.
Right.
It was like, "I have a boyfriend. That's what it is." Oh, I know, whatever. And so he still be trying to get with her. He don't care
Mm-mm.
because in his mind, whatever he wants, he gets. So
Mm-hmm.
as
Such
time
a
goes,
brat.
right, but low key, she like it.
Well, yeah,
She don't
she
know why
do.
she like it, but she like it. And as time go by, she's noticing that she's not talking to Taeyong no more like she used to. Like he ain't calling. It's been days since he called. Like she call
Mm-hmm.
him, he don't pick up, he don't return the call.
Oh,
And
yep.
she's not really missing it either
Right.
because
So,
she's kind of wrapped up in JK.
right. Even though she knows she shouldn't be, but one night she finally gets a hold of Taeyong on FaceTime.
Mhm.
And she's like, he answers the phone and she's like, hey, blah, blah, blah. And he like looks at her kind of surprised. And what happens? A girl pops up in the background, like, who's that, babe?
Mhm.
So the girl's like, hey, who are you? And she's like, oh, I'm Tay's girlfriend. And she's like, oh. And the girl's like, who are you? And she's like, oh, I'm just his best friend.
Girl,
I'm
she was
nobody.
better than me.
Girl, I mean, but I was thinking about, like, what is she going to do? She's thousands and thousands of
I
miles
don't
away.
care, boo. If you've been my man for a year, we're gonna fight about this thing
And
in
she
front
just
of her.
gave him some? Yeah, I would have been hot now that I'm thinking about that.
Cause you
She
gotta remember that this girl that lost her virginity to him, girl. Come on, think
mm-hmm.
about it. When you lose your virginity, you
Girl.
already automatically like I done lost my virginity to this guy. He's the one. You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't share that
Okay,
same story.
maybe not. But you know when you lose well, maybe not. But I
I
thought
know. I was just ready to go, girl.
I thought when you lose your virginity, you be like. You be in love with that person. You think you in love with that one person you just lost your virginity to.
I've heard the stories. I'm sure that's a thing. That was not my ministry.
Oh my goodness. So funny.
But yeah, so homegirl pops up in the background. She's like, I'm his girlfriend. She's like, oh, I've never heard of you or whatever. And she's like, yeah, that makes sense. He doesn't really tell much people about me. The whole time Tay is sitting there stuck, like,
Looking
oh shit,
crazy.
what am I supposed to do?
And you know the face I had for him? You remember I don't know if you seen the radio camp thing he was doing where he was zipping up his pants before he figured out they was on camera. That
Oh
face.
yeah.
That's the face I thought I was thinking about him.
Yes, I could totally see that because
Yeah.
he was stuck. He was just like, "Oh crap!" And the girl's just like, "Yeah, we should. I would really like to get to know you." And girl's like,
Right.
"Yeah, sure. Like that's totally fine."
She was a real trooper for
She
being
was a trooper
cool
because
like
he ain't say
that.
nothing that entire time, just looking stupid.
Uh-huh.
And she hung up off that phone and was like, "All right." So she called her good sis Jenny and was like, "Hey, bitch, we're going out tonight. Let's go to the club. We're about to drink, dance, blah blah blah." So she's like, "Bet." So they go out. They go to the club, they start drinking, having a good time, dancing, and who does old girl bump into? JK fine ass.
You know he was looking fine up in that club.
Girl.
hmm But
Go
but
ahead.
she was drunk.
Yeah, she was.
She was through by then, and she was through off of one drink.
Right. I was so, because I was like, did something else happen and I missed it? But then
Right.
I
She
did again when
literally
I went
only
home.
had one drink and she was through, but
Yeah.
she was not a drinker.
Mm-mm.
So so she was just drunk or whatever. JK pretty much bring her upstairs because he got a freaking room at the
At the
club.
club.
He got a room at the club upstairs, honey.
Girl.
So he took her upstairs and they just kind of start like making out and getting kind of like fresh with each other. And
Mm-hmm.
she loving it. Oh, this scene was so good though. She was
Mm-hmm.
loving it and everything. And then she stopped because she was like,
Mm-hmm.
this is my boss. What am I doing? What's going
Right.
on? What's going on? I'm drunk. Oh, let me get out of here. And so she dipped out on him. But she
Mm-hmm.
was about to. She was about to get that thing up, and he sure was about to take it.
It sure was. And the thing that I thought was hilarious was the next day when she wanted to be like, I'm just going to act like nothing happened and that I don't remember and that this didn't exist. I'm like, girl, you can't do
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
This man didn't care if you had a boyfriend or not. He's going to remember and he knows that that happened, in fact. Like, you could
Right.
try it, but that's not going to work.
Right. And it didn't.
Nope.
So what happens after that day?
So after that, she goes to work the next day. JK's like looking at her, but she's kind of like trying to avoid him at all costs because she feels some type of way about what happened. But she feels like maybe if I try to ignore it, it won't be nothing like that bad. So
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't having that. And at some point, he was like, "Why are you ignoring me?" Like, and she's like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" Blah blah blah. And he's like, "You've been ignoring me. You haven't even looked at me." Blah blah blah. She's just, and he's like, "Is this about what happened last night?" She's like, "No, it's just I've been busy." Blah blah blah. And he's like, "Nah, girl." So then they have that whole conversation about like what happened, but then she's trying not to, she keeps like saying like it's wrong, like we shouldn't be doing this, like you're my boss, blah blah blah. So I don't remember what his rebuttal was to that, except like I'm gonna get you anyway. But
Mm-hmm.
after that, I feel like they just kind of start to he keeps trying pretty much. And at a point, he ends up, dang, what was it that they went to? They did something.
Didn't they end up going? Didn't they have ramen?
They did. He ended up going to her house for ramen, but I can't remember why he was at her house.
I think they was working late.
Oh, that's right. He hadn't eaten. Yep.
And she invited him for ramen, and then they had ramen. Then who knew ramen would link up to that good old dick?
Okay, let me know. I've been trying to figure out the ways. I'm just playing. So yeah, so
she didn't want it, dick. Right? And she didn't want it. She was trying to fight it, and he was like, "You might as well give in." And she did, and that's all she had to do.
It only took that one time, and after that, it was never hers to say no to again.
Girl, I wouldn't have said no either.
I mean, me either. The way that they described it in the story was like everything he did set her off. He could be talking to her. He could like look at her. It would set her off. The way that he would walk up behind her and whisper in her ear. Woo! Did you hear it?
Yes.
Girl, I heard it every single time. I was like, ooh, I got chills too. Like,
girl, I just envisioning him grabbing her face. Oh,
girl. He said all the right things though, man.
He sure did.
I wanted to box him. I did. I wanted to box him. Every time he said something stupid and he's like, ooh, I got her. I'm like, ooh, where's the gloves?
And she just melted right in his hand.
Melted. It actually says that in the story. She melted.
I know she was melting because when I was reading, I was melting.
Girl, I mean, over here getting mad.
Oh my God. He like really was beating that thing up. Like,
he was, yeah, and kudos to her because she was taking it too.
Taking all that
let's
meat.
Let's just be honest. Yes.
Taking all that meat. Okay.
She was doing it. So it goes down. They now it's a thing. But like the next day.
Oh no. This what happened. They end up going to that trip.
Oh, going to Paris?
They end up going to Paris.
Girl, okay.
That's when it really went down.
It really went down when they went to Paris. Wait, no, didn't the conversation? No, that might have been in Paris. Okay. So there's a work trip that they had to go to in Paris. And it was her, him, and Yoongi, because Yoongi also works for the company. So they go on this work trip. She's supposed to have all the documents, blah, blah, blah. So they go to these meetings, all of that. And then things are kind of like getting a little bit, there's tension between them. But they're trying not to really give in. Well, Yoongi's like, all right, I'm out. And he leaves like a day early. So now it's just the two of them together by themselves. So in perfect fashion, they get it in. Well, this is such a magical thing. Like they go around the city of love, and they not take pictures, but they go to like eat, and they go to stuff that's supposed to be with couples. Yeah. And it was so beautiful.
But the thing about this is, D-Lizay, I will say this is the only time that she was asking him, "Why are you doing this?"
She did. And
why you take
lied? He bold-faced lied to her.
Yeah.
Bold-faced lied to her. I want you and I care about you and blah, 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 blah. And she's just like, melting.
Yeah. Like,
and what is she?
But he wasn't really like he wasn't like, I thought the way I was reading it is that like he was not giving her direct answers. Like it was like she was like, but this is the city you love. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But you take people out on dates here. Yeah, you do. Like that type of.
Yeah, like I feel like she was kind of in some parts of it making her own conclusions of what he was saying. But then there was other parts of it where he was really telling her like, no, I for real like want you. And then she goes out one day, she goes, knocks on his door, and he's not there. So she's like, I'm going to go explore the city. So she goes explore the city, and she stops by a jewelry store, and she gets this man this really nice ass bracelet that costs 2 times her salary.
Right.
And I just got to include that because her was tripping.
I mean, why?
Why?
Why she do that?
Why?
Like that threw a curveball and everything. First of all, second of
Seriously.
all, you only been giving this man the pussy for a little bit of time.
Right. It only had been like what, not even a month?
Right. And she was already
Girl.
in love with girl.
Mm-hmm.
That dick had power.
Yeah. So she goes and gets this bracelet, and she's like, yes, I'm going to get it, whatever. And she tells this man her whole story about this guy that she cares about. And he's like, oh, you're in love. And she's like, no, 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 no. So she gets the bracelet. On the back of the bracelet, it's engraved. It says me and more. So she gives the bracelet to JK at some point, and
Right,
he's
and
like,
looking like, oh, well, he might not be able to read it. He might not. Like, who in the world don't know what meal more mean?
girl. Especially, I'm sure this obviously wasn't his first time in Paris. Like,
Right. I mean, you do
so
realize he's a billionaire, right?
right,
He
constantly
travels the
traveling for
world.
work.
Yeah.
Exactly. So she gives him this bracelet. Well, they have another session, and things are like really cute and cuddly. And she's like, "I want to give you something," and he's like, "What?" She's like, "I want to give you something." So she grabs this bracelet and she gives it to him, and he doesn't say anything. He's like speechless. He's just looking, and she's like, now she's overthinking everything. Oh crap! I gotta take it back. I should do. And eventually he's like, "No, you want to give this to me?" And she's like, "Yeah." So he takes it out and he notices the bracelet and he's like looking at it, and he just doesn't know what to say. This is the point
When
I
he
feel
told her
like,
he liked that bracelet, because at that point he didn't even see the inside.
right. And I think I feel like at this point is when he started to catch feelings, even though he,
Didn't
you
know
know,
it. He didn't know
right.
it. Mm-hmm.
So I think it's like the next day, or maybe it's the same day, where he has her put it on him.
Mm-hmm.
So she puts the bracelet on him and he's wearing it or whatever. So they get back to Korea, and she goes to, or I think he has a bracelet on, and Yoongi sees him,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, "Hey bro, what's going on with that?" And he's like, "What do you mean? It's just a bracelet." And he's like, "Okay, did you see what's inscribed on the back?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, what are you talking about?" She's like, "She's fallen, and it's already too late."
Right, because what we don't know later on in the story, it shows that Yugi actually was going around town and looked at that same bracelet, but
Mm-hmm.
did not get it because of what it said on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew by looking
Mm-hmm.
at the bracelet what it said.
Exactly. Girl.
Mm. I was like, oh, Yugi, you being a blocker.
I don't know, but he wasn't wrong
I
though.
know
Like
he was.
I was mad because he knew all this stuff. See, that was the thing. So Yoongi knew all this stuff about the girl and was like, "She's a sweet girl.
Mhm.
Don't do her like this. She's already feeling things for you. You're gonna hurt her, blah 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 blah." And the whole time JK's like, "No, it'll be fine. You know
Mhm.
how I roll." And Yoongi's like, "Bro, stop." And he didn't listen.
Mhm.
So after JK has this realization, he looks on the back and sees what it says and is like, "Okay, I can't deal with her no more. I cannot have sex with her no more. This has to end."
Yeah. He didn't even wear the bracelet
So,
no more. He didn't even like say nothing about it.
yep. And so she goes to work the next day and notices he doesn't have it on.
Mhm.
And so she feels some type of way immediately about it. And he's like treating her like crap again.
Mhm.
So she feels some type of way about that. So during all of this, I think it's that same day that she goes home, she feeling some type of way, and she hears a knock on the door, and it's Taeyoung.
Uh-uh.
She obviously was not expecting Taeyoung. She
Mhm.
wasn't sure why he was there, but he was.
Right, and she already all emotional and thinking about that bracelet that he ain't even wearing
Mm-hmm.
and how he treated her
Go.
all like this. So then, after that, um, Tay was like, "I just need to explain myself to you. What's going on?" She was like, "You know what? I don't even want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is not the time." And so Tay says, "Well, I understand, and just call me. My number's still the same. Call me when you're ready."
Mm-hmm.
So Tay leaves. Basically, I guess kind of days go by and she go back to work.
But she struggled with this.
Yeah, because she's so emotional about this bracelet, and she emotional about Tay.
Yeah, and she didn't know what to do with it. Like she was really struggling. And because JK was kind of treating her like trash after they had this amazing, beautiful time in Paris, and then he comes back and treats her like he doesn't even know who she is. Like treats her as his just secretary.
Yeah.
And so she's dealing with that, and then she's also doing the fact that Tay wants to talk and stuff.
Right.
So I can't remember if this was before or after, but she oh no, this was before. Okay, so after Taeyoung comes and she has it, she's like, I can't do this right now, and she's thinking about it, thinking about it. So for days, she's not eating, she's not sleeping, she's just
Oh
filling up
yeah.
on coffee. Yeah,
Like
she's
she's
just
not
giving
taking care of
caffeine
herself at all. So one
at
thing,
all.
she is like I told you guys, she's very emotional. She literally wears her heart on her sleeve, and when she is going through it, she is going through it. So she stops eating, she stops taking care of herself. She's
Mhm.
in her thoughts about what's going on.
Mhm. And so, in doing all of that, she's obviously not healthy.
Uh-huh.
So she ends up passing out, I believe.
She go to work and she don't know what's going on between her and JK. So JK treating her really bad, like really cold. And she asked him after a meeting, like they in the elevator with them two together, and she's asking him, and she calls him by his name, which when she's professional, she calls him by Mr. Chung.
Sean.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, but when she's not, she called him Jungkook. So
Mhm.
she was like saying Jungkook, and he was like, "Oh, what did he say to her? We supposed to be perfect." Something he said.
Yeah, something about being professional. You will
Yeah,
address me as this Miss your name.
yeah. And he didn't want to talk about it. He pretty much shut her down. He was real cold about it, and that like devastated her to even hear
Mhm.
that. And so she just continued on working, and then she isn't that when she goes and cry in the rain?
No, that's later, I
Oh,
think. Isn't that later, I think? Yeah, cuz he saved her twice. So she's in the bathroom. Yeah, she went to the bathroom, but she was crying, but she was in there
oh,
super long.
yeah.
And then he came in there because I'm guessing the bathroom was in his office,
Mhm.
and so he came in there and saw her on the ground and ended up picking her up and telling somebody to call 911 to take her to the hospital. So she gets to the hospital. Come to find out, homegirl was like probably dehydrated. She ain't ate in days. She was only having caffeine, so she was having a really hard time. So she's at the hospital. Jenny's there because Jenny's like her homegirl, and he's there as well. And they're like talking about what happened, but he doesn't know like all the details of what happened. So he's like, I got your bags packed. You're gonna come stay with me until you like recover. Which I was kind of confused by that because it's like I'm surprised her homegirl wasn't like, hey girl, I'm gonna come by your house or something like that. And he's like, no, you just come stay with me. Wasn't that weird to you?
Yeah, that was weird, but he remembered that he was actually feeling something towards her, but didn't know what that feeling was too. So he
Yeah.
insisted that she stay there.
Yeah.
So he basically gave her a week off and said, "You're gonna be staying with me. You got to get better."
Mm-hmm.
So the whole time that she was staying with him and stuff, he was like taking care of her. He was still going to work, so she was like doing like stuff around the house and trying to cook, even though she couldn't cook like that, and pretty much trying to take care of his house.
Mm-hmm.
So in that time, she just falling right back into his past,
Mm-hmm.
just falling right. Yeah. You know that Keisha Cole song on that first album? And she
Mm-hmm.
said slowly falling. That's what she was.
Girl.
She was slowly falling.
I feel like she was rapidly falling.
She might have been rapidly falling with the quick.
Girl. Girl.
She was very good.
He would look yeah, she was ready to lose her risk it all
Right.
for this
Sure
man.
was.
Like, girl, get some sense about you. It's okay.
Right. So, so she's staying with him. He's taking care of her, and then like they don't have sex for a couple of days because he wants her to get well. But then that last day, boom.
And also because remember he was trying to avoid her because he knew that she was getting feelings for him, and he's like, I don't do that. So he wasn't trying to have sex, but he couldn't help it. Like, he was just as intrigued and attracted to her as she was to him. But yeah, that last night, it got popping.
It got popping.
Mm-hmm.
And he's so dominant with her. It is just everything, girl. He's so dominant.
Man. Oof.
Yes. I know it.
So they have that going on, and then this is the same time. Okay. So she's starting to feel better. She's starting to kind of get her bearings about her. She's like kind of getting past the stuff with Taeyoung, but she decides to call him to meet up. So she goes and meets up with Tay, and they have a conversation. They kind of talk about everything. They're laughing, joking, everything is cool. And then hours go by, and she goes back to JK's house. JK is livid. He's like, how dare you? Where have you been? Blah, 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 blah. She's like, I was out with a friend. He's like, you lied to me.
Yeah, when
She's
she
like,
told him that she was leaving with a friend.
Yeah, she wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
That friend just happened to be her ex.
Right.
As well. So he was pissed. How dare you? If you couldn't get enough of me, so you went to him knowing he cheated on you. And she's like, how the hell do you even know all this? But all right. And he just started going in on her, and she's just like, I'm gonna go because I'm not doing this with you. Like, why do you even care? So they kind of get into it, and he's like, I just want you, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, yeah, we're not doing this. Then he randomly, I think it was this time when he was like, move in with me. And she's like, I'm not doing that.
No, this was this one, the time.
You're right. That's the second time.
Yeah, that was the second time. This time when she was staying at the house, and she was like, she actually had told him, Tay is my friend, and this is what happened. He told me why he cheated on me, and I understand, and we best friends now. That's just what it is.
Right. And she said, and I wanted to make sure I was good before coming to you.
Right. And then he felt bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so they kept saying he was sorry a million times because she was feeling like, so she was so emotional, and she was like, this is why I was feeling this way. I was all emotional about him. I was all emotional about this, then he started apologizing.
Yeah.
And they had sex after all the apologies.
Yeah.
And then after they had sex, he was like, so do you forgive me now?
Right. Like, she does.
Right.
You literally blinked twice, and she was like, cool, we're good.
Right. For real.
So, okay. So then that happened. I'm trying to think what to fast forward to, because as this is going on, they're still kind of like.
Well, they just kind of kept things going, still screwing each other. Like, she was like, okay, time to go back to my apartment.
Right.
And he was like, no. Yep. Why do you need to go back?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, I'm better now. I'm back at work. Like, you don't need me here or whatever. I go back to my apartment. He was like, move. That's when he was asking. Wasn't that when he asked her to move in?
See, I think so. I think so. Because I was trying to remember if that was the time or if it was the time after when she stayed at his house when he asked her to move in. But I think it was this time.
Oh, you're right. It was another time, honey, because they was going. Okay, that's when she was crying in that rain.
In the rain. Yep.
I can't even remember why she was crying in that rain.
So she was crying in the rain because her car wouldn't start, and then she tried to catch a cab, but she couldn't catch a cab.
Yeah, but her and JK was mad at each other again, wasn't they?
Yeah, because he was treating her like mess again, because he had sat there and bold-faced lied to her yet again. And that's what it was. So okay, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. So she was kind of going through it, and she was needing to, like, her car, all this stuff was happening, but there's a point where JK is talking to Yoongi in his office, and he's like, yeah, it's not like that. She's just a really good, like, she just got some really good pussy, and that's why she's like the best, and that's why I keep dealing with her. Well, she heard that. So now she's crushed about that, and so she's going to her car. But then she forgot because she has been kind of dazed and confused. She didn't put no gas in her car. So now she's trying to catch a cab. Wait, did she catch a cab?
No, girl, she have no money.
She ain't had no money.
She have her
So
stuff on her or something.
yeah. So she's outside, and then she starts to rain. It starts to rain, but then she like fell. But then instead of getting herself back up, she just stayed in the little puddle
Like a
crying in the
whole
rain.
K-drama.
Girl, and so she's out there for quite some time in the rain,
Ready to
and
get the
here
flu.
comes JK. Yeah, ready to get the flu.
This is not the time for the flu.
Man, here comes JK saving the day, wraps her up and takes her to his house yet again.
Right, and she was out there before like a day or two, too, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was, because she had gotten sick at this point because she was outside in the rain. Like,
Yeah.
it was crazy. She was out there just soaking up all that water. So she's at his house. He's taking care of her. He was really, really worried about her, because that was like what made them kind of make up, was him seeing her outside like that. So they have this. He's taking care of her, getting her well and all that stuff, and she's just she's feeling some type of way about everything because she overheard that. And they have a moment where they end up having sex again, and he wakes up and she's gone.
No, girl, you skipped the whole part. That's when he told her to move in, because after
Oh,
she
that's
got
right. That's
better,
right.
she was about to move out. Because the first time she moved out, it was straight. Then this happened, and he told her to move in there again, and she said no, because we're not even sure of what we are. This is
Right.
now she's starting to get a little bit more vocal. So then she's
Yeah,
like,
because she's over it.
right. So she's like, we don't even know what we are. You can't even tell me what we are, what we doing. He was saying, I don't even know what this is. I just know that I want you and this is what I want. But he wouldn't say, I want to be with you. He was just saying, this is something new and this is what I want.
And she flat out, I think this is the part where she's like, I don't think you want me like I want you.
Yeah.
And she left.
Yeah.
But one of the things that was funny was he's like, well, I offered you to you move in with me. And she's like, that's something so serious. And we're not even anything, the nerve. But why would you offer me? I'm not your charity case.
Right. So
he was really offended.
Right. And she should have been the one offended.
Right.
But this is where the point where they were just kind of just going back and forth with each other. They still was like doing their thing, because at this point she was just like, okay, I'm just gonna take him however way I can get him, because all I know is when I'm with him, I'm happy. And so that's when they at work and all this stuff, and then she finds out that he has a gym in there in his office, and he wants her to come work out with them. Well, they work out together. They're just having like this best time, having a good time. Then they end up having sex, of course, hot and sweaty. They were licking on each other, and I was like, ew. So,
girl.
So they had good sex, and then like I guess she was kind of like cleaning up, and he had already cleaned up, got in the shower, was in his office. Yugi was in there. That's when they were talking. Yugi and him was talking, and he was like, "You're in love with her. She in love with you." Blah blah blah. And he was like, "No, she just got some good pussy, and I can't stop getting into that pussy because it's so good, and it's the best I've ever had." That's what he said. It's the best I've ever had. And so after that, she overheard it. And once she overheard him, she leaves. And then she's like, I'm never gonna be with him. I'm never talking to him like again. I just know, because it's a backstory to this, guys. The backstory is that she has parents that were divorced, but before her parents could uh divorce good, her mom kind of already knew something was going on with her dad, but she stayed there. And so her mom always told her, before you figure something out too late, just leave. So she was just thinking about what her mom said. So she was like, you know what, I should just leave. I shouldn't get involved with this. I should just leave. This is how he truly feels, and I thought we were breaking barriers. Obviously, we're not. I just need to leave. So how do they kind of reconnect? She wasn't even gonna fool with him no more, like period. And he came.
He came. Yeah, I think I feel like he came to her house or something to check on
Oh,
her. Or something happened
he was
where.
at her house. She had been gone for a minute. Oh, when
Mm-hmm.
she found out, this what happened. She found out about it, her and him talking to Yugi. She got in a cab and told the cab just to drive. She ended
Oh
up at Yeah,
yeah.
she ended up at the beach and she just sat there for hours. The cab driver was
Mm-hmm.
so nice because he knew she was crying the whole time. And the cab driver
Mm-hmm.
knew she was going through something. So he just stayed there and let her cry the whole day. He
Mm-hmm.
missed all his money, honey. Because
Okay.
he stayed there all day. He was like, I didn't have it in me to leave you.
He was a good guy. Whoever that taxi driver was, kudos.
Kudos to the taxi driver, right?
He's
So
nice.
so the taxi driver actually gave her a ride back to her house. So when she got back to the
Mm.
house, JK was there. And JK was
Mm-hmm.
there, then like nothing ever happened. Oh, where you been? I was worried about you. Don't leave me like that again. Blah 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 blah. Then he was like, "You want? Let's go to my place. Let's have dinner." Yeah. And so they went to the house, his house, and had dinner. And the whole time she was just looking at him like, okay, just one last time I'm gonna be with him, just one last time. That's all she could think about.
Mm-hmm.
So they had dinner. She wasn't really talking, but they kind of had a short, conversation. Then they had some really good sex, and all she was thinking about is this is the last time, this one last time. And
Mm-hmm.
he broke her back pretty good for that one last time.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the next day when he woke up, she was gone, and she left this whole long letter telling him that she heard Yugi and him talking, and that, she doesn't blame him. If anything, she blames herself, but she needs to leave, and that's what she did.
Mm-hmm. And she didn't like leave like his house and just go back to her crib. She left the
The
country. She
country,
went
boo.
to she left the continent. She left to go back to Canada,
Uh-huh.
and because she was half Korean, half
Right.
Canadian. So she went back to Canada to just live her best life. She didn't tell him where she was going. She didn't tell nobody. She just was gone. And 3 years
3 years
later,
later.
is is when we catch up again.
But JK, when he read
He
that
felt
letter, he
shitty
broke down because
because he knew he was
he knew he was
wrong.
wrong. Not only that, he realized that he was deadly in love with this girl. By the
Mm-hmm.
That's when he started realizing that he was so in love with her.
Yeah. So during the time that, after he read the letter and he's kind of trying to go through his day to day, I guess he's been a pretty hard person to deal with, but he keeps getting tattoos. So he just started getting a bunch of tattoos to feel something.
Yeah, because he was so
While
numb.
mm-hmm, while she was gone. Well, there's this time where Yoongi is sent to Canada for a trip, for a business trip, and he's like taking pictures around, blah blah blah, and he looks at his pictures and notices that the girl is in the picture with a guy with Jin and
Mhm.
a kid. So
And he already
Yoongi
sent
sends the
that picture
picture.
before he even looked at it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So he sends the picture to JK, and JK's like, "Oh my gosh, that's the girl.
Mhm.
Oh, this is where she's at." And Yugi's like, "Look, I don't have any information, so I don't know what to tell you." So what JK then decides to do is he hires a PI to find where this girl is at, and decides to go himself.
So on the other hand, this girl had been kind of broke down. She was staying with her mom for a little bit, and then she moved to Vancouver. And she moved to Vancouver. She found Jen, which ends up being like her best friend. Jen was also her therapist, so that's who she was kind of talking her stuff with. And Jen had a little kid named Noah. So Jen was actually married and had this wife, and the woman died at childbirth.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole time, that he was kind of being friends with her and her therapist, they kind of adopted her into their family, and also she kind of played the role as the little kid's mom.
Right, because so part of the thing that happened, and another one of the big reasons that she was in therapy is that when she left those years ago, she got to Canada and found out that she was 2 months pregnant, but she didn't know that she was 2 months pregnant. So with all the stresses of her life and everything like that happening, she ended up losing the baby. So there was like that on top of all the stuff that happened with JK and her feeling like worthless and feeling like nothing and all the stuff with it was just everything combined. So now you have Jin and Noah, and she's kind of feeling that there. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you good. Um, so she's pretty much like really still kind of depressed about her losing the baby and all this stuff. And Jen is kind of telling her it's okay. And she plays the role of this kid's mom, which is so crazy by the end. But
Right.
anyway, she plays the mom. She hears a knock at the door one day and open that door, and it was no other than sexy, fine JK with this whole sleeve and this whole long hair now. And he pretty much calls her name. She's like shook. She shook like
Mm-hmm.
she don't know how he didn't found her.
Mm-hmm.
So he come in the house. He's like, please listen to me. He tells her all this stuff how he actually loved her, and he been broken ever since she left, and he knew it was a mistake, and all this stuff. She can't really say nothing because she's crying. He crying. It was such a sad, emotional scene.
Yeah, it was a very emotional scene.
Man, I'm telling you, they both was in there crying. I was like, ooh.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, before she could even say anything, Noah comes running in the house and he was like, Mama, blah, blah, blah. And then Jen comes in, but Jen don't even say nothing. All JK just kind of looked. He's like, oh, she could, because he already thought she had a child by looking at the pictures.
Right. And it didn't help because when Noah
He
came in,
called
he
her
said,
mama.
Mommy, Daddy, and me. And he said, Daddy and me are home or
Oh
something like
yeah,
that.
that's right. And so JK didn't
Mm-hmm.
do nothing but turn around and leave. And why she didn't stop him,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Girl, frustrated. Frustrated.
So he leaves, and I don't know how long time goes by, and she just thinking, oh my God, he realized that he think that this child was mine. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not. And the way he's been feeling this way, I've been feeling, and I just need to go talk to him. So she flies back to Korea, and she goes back to the company, and JK is not there. He left the company to Yugi. So
Mm-hmm.
Yugi basically tells her, I don't know where he at. He disappeared, and I wouldn't tell you anyway, because he broken. He like bad broken. And she was like,
Mm-hmm.
look, I know you know where he is. You got to help me. He is the love of my life. It's been 3 years, and I still love him that bad. So Yuki
Mm-hmm.
ends up telling her where he is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he said, I think he didn't actually know where he was at, but he's like, I know him well enough that he's probably at this
Ain't this
place.
some airplane part two?
Girl, that's exactly what I thought about.
And look,
I was like, is this the same Yoongi?
right. And look, when she left and went to that other country, didn't you think about the Velvet Dungeon when she
Yes.
left with
Yes,
the
I
friends?
did.
Yeah, girl.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so Yuki ends up telling her he freaking up in the mountains somewhere where it's snowing all the time, looking like a sexy lumberjack.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes to his the place where she thought he was at, knocked on the door, he didn't answer. She sat out there for a minute, still knocked on the door, he didn't answer, and like she's like about to start crying. She's like, I've lost the love of my life, like I don't know what I'm doing. She just like she didn't have like no plan, no way out, nothing. So she
Nothing.
just like start walking, and then she turns around and she see JK sit on the porch.
Okay, let me ask you this. Because this is what I thought was going to happen. Did you think there was gonna be somebody else with him in that
Oh
house, or
yes,
was it
I
just
sure
me?
did. Thought it was gonna be somebody. I was like, oh no.
Girl. Okay, that was my first thought. I was like, "Oh, I gotta ask Liz if she thought
I
this
did think
too."
so. She goes up to him. She like he's about to walk into the house. She screams his name. He turns around, cannot believe it's her. And then they fall in love again, and they pretty much talk to each other about everything. And they both figure out that they had a kid, and it didn't work out, and they were in love, and they spent a couple days there, and that pretty much was the end of the story. Basically, they end up making love a bunch of times, and then like he ends up asking her to marry him.
And that
That
was
was
the
the
end of
end
the
of the story.
story.
And I'm thinking, so you left this whole baby in Vancouver and let him think you the mama and then go back?
Girl, and bounced. I was like, poor kid. Probably confused like shit. Like, this is the second
Right,
time
right,
that kid's gonna need therapy.
right. So how'd you feel about the story then?
All right, so I liked the story. I liked it a lot. I thought it was a great story. It was just, there was so much back and forth with it. And I was so frustrated though. I was like, I don't want to say, like, I was kind of like irritated, but not because the story was bad, because it just reflected a little bit too much of my life. So I was just like, I was irritated because just the back and forth thing was like really getting me. And it's like, we could all see what's going on and the feelings, but it was like they couldn't get there. And it was a good emotional story, but it was just kind of like, just love each other.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I thought it was so sweet and so emotional. That end part, they were just saying I love you every 2 seconds. It was the cutest thing in the world.
It was so sweet. But it
Yeah.
was so fluffy at the end that I wanted them to go back. It's
Girl,
so weird. I wanted him to go back to the I'm the possessive boss in charge, about to grab you by your neck, JK. But I thought the story was so good. It was one of these stories that you cannot put down. The story
yes.
was on point. Oh my
Yes.
God, it
Yep.
was so good. It was so good. I really loved this story. And we found it off like TikTok. Like somebody was talking about it on TikTok.
Yeah. Great
Yeah,
story. Super, super
it
great
was so
story.
good.
Definitely enjoyed this one. That is it for this week's episode. Um, you guys can follow us as usual on Instagram and Twitter. You can and TikTok
And
and
TikTok
YouTube.
and YouTube.
And
Check us
YouTube.
out on
And
YouTube.
if you guys go to our TikTok page, when it shows like the little following with the little Instagram like symbol is, it has both our Instagram and our YouTube on there. But yeah, you guys go subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff for our first episode. We will be doing another one next week. So you guys can keep sending us those recommendations. I know we've been getting a lot through like DMs and things like that. You guys can keep sending them that way, or you can send them to us via email at doyoureadbts@yahoo.com.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for another episode.
Bye.
Bye.